I want to talk about campaign finance law, and I want to talk about it through the framework of two different competing views, and I also want to talk about it through the framework of an analogy here. So on the left, I've got an army, and they're looking to storm the castle and seize what's ever inside. And so the idea is that we could have helpless people inside, an invading army on the outside, and this moat and this fortifications and this drawbridge are designed to protect the people inside because they're helpless against the invading army. And some people say that this is exactly how campaign finance rules work. Money is the invading army. They're trying to take over and dominate and subjugate campaigns and parties, and that unless we had strong campaign finance rules, we wouldn't be able to keep that money out and the campaigns and parties safe. Now, the competing view on this is, what if we replace the name of this invading army instead with the name of a liberating army? And it changes things around. That money is not there to destroy campaigns and parties, but rather there to liberate campaigns and parties. We need energy from money. We need the new ideas to flow in from money. We need parties to be shaken up. We need third parties to emerge. We need campaigns to have more issues being addressed, which comes from that money. And we need more energy. And that these campaign finance rules are restricting this liberating army from these helpless people. It's restricting the money to flow in to liberate campaigns and parties. These are competing views which exist throughout all of our democracy. View one, money represents corporate and powerful interests in society trying to buy their way into government, and strict laws regulate that. And if we don't have them, we'll lose our democracy. It's more of an elite class theorist position. Or that money is something that everyone can freely earn and freely spend. If you want to spend your money on campaigns rather than boats or cars, go for it. We need more people spending more money on elections so there's more competition and more interest in the process. It's more of a pluralist view. The third view is a belief that money flowing from PACs to super PACs to large donors and small donors and business and labor and interest and goes towards parties and independent campaigns and posters and signs and slogans and whatever is just evidence that the whole system is just one big muddled mess. It's more of a hyper-pluralist view. I'm going to run you through the evolution of campaign finance law. It's more or less what you need to know for active citizenship in the AP exam. Pay close attention to the stuff with the asterisks. It's not boring. It's actually quite interesting look into American history. As you listen, I want you to have the question in your mind, what are campaign finance laws there to do? Are they to protect money from seizing elections, or are they to protect money from liberating elections? 1943, Smith-Conley Act. It's in the middle of the war. Labor is becoming more powerful because it's necessary for the war effort. And labor starts advocating for strikes until they get their needs met. And so in order to overcome the power of labor unions, a lot of anti-strike legislation was passed in 1943, and also prohibiting labor unions from contributing money to federal candidates. So in 1944, the CIO, which is a labor union, said, you know what, we're not going to contribute directly to candidates from our general treasury, but instead we're going to create this legal entity called a political action committee, and our members can voluntarily contribute to this political action committee, who can then go on and then give that money to a candidate that's going to be pro-labor. So let's take a look at this graphically. A group of laborers, labor unions, not the union itself, but the members of the unions can give to a PAC. The PAC can then give to a candidate. Or the labor union members can give directly to a candidate themselves. What was made illegal by these acts in the 1940s was that no treasury money from the official AFL-CIO or the CIO could directly go to a candidate. And you want to stop for a second and ask, why give to a PAC? Why would I want to give to a PAC instead of just contributing directly to a candidate? Well, here's why. Well, you can do both, first of all. There's no rule against that. You can double dip. But if you give to a PAC, like a CIO PAC, and that PAC gives money to a candidate, when the candidate receives that money, the message that he's getting from that check is, you are being supported by labor interests. And so that has a message attached to that candidate. When you just get a check from Joe Schmo or Jane Schmo, the candidate says, thank you, Joe Schmo. Thank you, Jane Schmo. I have no idea why you gave this to me. I don't know what positions you like, but I'm going to take your money and I'm going to spend it. So giving to PAC attaches a message to the money which gets spent on candidates. 1947, the Taft-Hartley Act put a permanent ban on contributions to federal candidates from unions, and now they added in corporations and interstate banks. So now it increased the fortification to include not just unions, but also corporations and to banks. So a big change in 1973 was the FEC Act, the Federal Elections Commissions Act. And this act was trying to piece together a bunch of different federal election law, which had gotten too scattered and too discoordinated, and they wanted to coordinate it all back together. They passed the act to set limits and require disclosure on spending for candidates for federal office, provides financing for federal elections, requires full and timely disclosures, limited some contributions, limits on contributions, and then capped spending. But it also finally solved the problem of, do we allow these PACs by corporations or unions, or do we not? And they said, look, we're going to make more restrictions. We're going to increase the fortifications through limits on contributions and disclosures and public financing and capping spending. But we're going to give a concession. We're going to permit PACs as a way for unions and corporations and interest groups to spend money on candidates through these political action committees. So now how does the picture look? A corporation like Microsoft can give to their own PAC, and they do so frequently. And members of Microsoft, employees, can also give to that PAC, and additionally, employees from Microsoft can give to a candidate. Microsoft cannot just take money, though, out of its general fund and give to a candidate. But this PAC, this Microsoft PAC, the MSPAC steering committee, is composed of people who have been hired by Microsoft, and they work and coordinate with Microsoft, and they worked for Microsoft. It's just that they are using money in this PAC rather than using money directly out of Microsoft's account. What is the difference? There really is none, especially since the money is directed by people from Microsoft and it's to Microsoft interests and Microsoft is giving contributions. The only difference is this money is limited, that being given to PACs. This money is limited. It's limited. It's been limited by the FEC Act. There's limits on what can be spent and no direct contributions are allowed. Okay, Buckley v. Vallejo, 1974, there was a challenge to the FEC Act, and the challenge was on the limits on campaign spending. The people said, look, I might be limited by the amount of money that I can raise on spending on a campaign, but I don't want to be limited on the amount of money that I spend. What if I spend my own money? And the Supreme Court ruled that these mandatory spending limits violated free speech liberties. Donations are speech and are deserving of certain protections. Spending money on your own campaign is speech. It cannot be limited, just how certain speech rights can't be limited. Certain speech rights can be limited. You can't say fire in a crowded movie theater, but your certain speech rights can't. There's a protection there. You can spend as much money as you want on your own campaign. That's the outcome of Buckley v. Vallejo. A loophole is an entry or an opening into a fortification. So as soon as you come across as an invading army or a liberating army into a fortification, you're gotta find the weak spots. Weak spot number one, soft money loopholes exposed in the 1980s and the 1990s. Corporations, unions, and the wealthy can give unlimited amounts of soft money, and soft money contributions had to be disclosed. Soft money is money not regulated by election law because it is given to parties for the purpose of party building. It's not given to candidates. Party building, though, may include ads that educate voters about issues so long as the ads don't take that crucial step of actually advocating for a candidate or not. Okay, so here are two political ads. Political ad on the left says, candidate X has an awful record that includes awful things. Likely awful things will continue, like I-90 will be tolled and the housing market in Seattle will take a downturn. Be sure to vote on election day. This is considered a voter education ad, and it does not require hard money. It only soft money. You're educating the voters. And so unlimited amounts of money flowing into parties can be spent on these ads that are issue ads. They're education ads. They are not advocacy ads because they don't take that crucial step of saying vote for somebody else. I'm a good person. Candidate X is a bad person. Vote for me on election day. Must be paid for with hard money, which is regulated by the FEC Act. It has to be disclosed. Well, soft money has to be disclosed. But there are limits on it, whereas there are no limits on soft money. So where do you think all the money started flowing in the early 80s and in the 90s? It started flowing into soft money, into these political parties. Loophole number two, 527 loopholes. Nonprofit groups in some ways do not have to disclose their contributions and can run issue ads so long as they don't advocate for a candidate. 527s are not regulated by election law. Companies, unions, individuals may give donations of any amount to 527s, and sometimes their contributions can be anonymous. So 527 is just the tax code number which these groups contain to, and they're groups that have a specific interest in seeing certain policies be advocated for. And as long as they're not going out saying, vote for this person, vote for that person, that money does not have to come from, it's not considered a hard money contribution. And so unions, corporations can flow money into these 527s. It can be anonymous, and it's unlimited, and it can go to these issue ads. Here's an issue ad you can look up. Just type in Swift Boat Veterans for Truth. You can see an issue ad that was an anti-Kerry issue ad. It was run by a 527 group, and it basically said John Kerry is a bad person. He's absolutely horrible. It never said don't vote for him. It just said he's a bad person, but it's when it's run during the election cycle, you can bridge that gap yourself. So, 2002, McCain-Feingold comes out. They fill up some of these loopholes, stop soft money, and bars issue ads running by 527s within 60 days of an election, and they ban corporations and unions from contributing to 527. That's a huge gap that gets filled in. Soft money, done. Corporations and unions into these 527s, done. And put a ban on these issue ads running close to an election. Then it's challenged almost immediately within 5 years. In 2007, the Supreme Court came out and struck down the issue ad limits. Corporations and unions were allowed to give to these 527s. It's still, though, those 527s could only run issue ads. They couldn't run direct advocacy until the huge case in 2010. The Supreme Court strikes down the rule that corporate and union ads cannot contain expressed advocacy. They now can. So now a corporation can run an ad that expressly contains advocacy. Vote for Romney. Vote for Obama. And that money can come directly from corporations and from unions. So we have gone from barring contributions from unions and corporations to now they can run their own ads in advocacy for a candidate. So let's go back to our analysis here. Really, what's been seen throughout American history is that corporations and unions have been seen as this invading army, and that campaigns and parties have been seen as these helpless people inside of the wall, and that the fortifications against this wall are things like limits on contributions, disclosure rules, public financing, outright bans on giving, which were some of the early attempts to stop corporations and unions, and that issue ads and soft money and 527s have been sort of this loophole that the corporations and unions can get into. But what has been this dragon over here on the side of this invading army? Who has been here and the big, powerful source of money in campaigns? It's been the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has consistently sided on the favor of allowing more money to flow into elections and striking down a lot of these bans.